Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Redwood City Transit Center community meeting tonight. We're so excited to have you join us. We know there's a lot of places you could be right now, and we really thank you for joining us. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes. And in those 5 minutes, we would love you to fill out a poll, which I'm about to activate. So you should see a little pop-up box on your screen right now. And if you could go ahead and take a second just to fill out, you know, who you are. You're a resident. Do you work in Redwood City? Do you visit friends and family here or other? Or do you come for shopping, entertainment, recreation? This just kind of gives us a sense of who's in this Zoom room. So I will come back in a few minutes and we'll get started in about 5 minutes. Thanks. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I see a couple more people trickling in right now. We will be starting in about 3 minutes at 6:05. If you could take a minute and fill out the Zoom poll, question 1, getting to know you on the screen. This just helps us get a sense of, who's in the meeting tonight. We'd love to know who you are, and we will get started in a couple minutes. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. If you've just joined in the last few seconds, we'll be starting in about a minute and a half. There is a Zoom poll pop-up box on your screen right now, and we would love you to answer that question for us, and just so we get a sense of, who's in the meeting tonight. And this will get started in about a minute. Thanks for joining. Great. Welcome, everybody. It's about 6:05. So we'll be starting the session. Thanks so much for joining us. We know everybody is really busy right now, and we're really thankful that you joined us tonight to hear about some updates on the Transit Center in Redwood City. So this is a community design input session. We're really here to listen to feedback, share with you what we've heard from you in the last year. I'm sure many of you have engaged in either online meetings or online survey, various different community meetings. So we're really excited to share where the project is at and hear your input on that. So you should have seen the poll on the screen here. And let me just end the poll and reflect the results. Not a big shocker, but most of you are residents. So 92% of you are residents, about 11% work here. Some visit friends and family, and some come for shopping and entertainment. And obviously you could have picked many of these things. So thanks for filling out that poll. It just gives us a sense of who's in the room since we can't see everybody's faces here. So let's get started. There are a couple ways that you can share feedback tonight. You can see at either the top or bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A icon. At any time during the presentation, if you want to put a question in there, we will be doing a Q&A session at the end of the meeting. So about the last 15 minutes, we'll be opening it up for Q&A. At that point, you can also raise your hand and be called on if you would like to ask your question or comment verbally as well. There's another way, participating in polls, what you just did. So there'll be two more opportunities where a poll will pop up on your screen and you'll choose a multiple choice question. And always the third way to get a hold of the city and learn about this project is through the website. You can see there. So if you want to learn more about the project or give input or click on any of the past links or presentations and really learn more, then that's always available to you. And just some last logistics. This is an attendee, this is a webinar, so all attendee audio and video are currently turned off during the presentation time. You can type your questions in the Zoom Q&A. We will answer those at the end, as I mentioned. And you can also raise your hand at the end of the presentation if you prefer to verbally ask your question. If your questions aren't answers, please note that every question you type into the Q&A box will be recorded. All of the chat will be recorded, everything, and we will be, updating some frequently asked questions if it's a new question that we haven't answered yet. And this is a public meeting, so just a reminder to be respectful with your questions and comments, and please do not share any sensitive information about yourself that you wouldn't want on public record. This session is being recorded right now and will be available and posted after the meeting for anybody that's missed it. Just kind of a brief overview of our agenda tonight. What we're going to cover today, first some introduction to the team from the Gensler team and the city team. Some review of goals. Many of you probably know a lot about this project already, but just some review of those goals and review of the project context. And then potential future vision, we'll dive into what the project, some concept visions, and then finally the framework. So kind of how we're thinking about organizing all the parts. And this is highly based on what we've heard from you throughout the last year of outreach. And finally, we'll end with a Q&A session. So some introductions. My name is Midori Mizuhara. I am an urban planner with the firm Gensler. And, besides urban planning and master planning and transportation planning, I work on a lot of community engagement and really excited to have and feel really lucky to have been working on this project along with the city team here. And I'll pass it off to Priyanka.
Hi, everybody. My name is Priyanka Agrawal, and I'm also an urban designer with Gensler. And I have been working with the city of Redwood City over the last year on a lot of the outreach efforts related to the transit district and the transit center improvements. And we're really excited to share with you what our potential future vision for the transit center will be today. So now I'll pass it over to Lindy at the city.
Thank you. My name is Lindy Chan. I'm a principal planner with the city of Redwood City, and I'm the planning lead for the transit district. I've been working on this transit district project for the last couple of years, and it's really exciting to be at this point today. So I'm excited to be here and excited to share our progress. So I'll now turn it over to Jessica.
Thanks, Lindy. I'm Jessica Manzi, Redwood City's transportation manager. I'm the transportation lead on the transit district planning work, as well as the project manager for the city for the grade separation study that's part of the transit district as well. And with that, we also have Sam Hughes that will be with us this evening, who's an associate planner with the city.
Thank you. So I'll go ahead and kick us off with some background. Thank you. So as you can see, this has been a really exciting journey. We began this process in 2019, and the City Council directed staff to create a transit district and do that in partnership with their transit agencies. The city has held robust community outreach in 2020 and late 2021, and that's really informed the city-led process. During this time, the city has also completed technical work and multiple rounds of outreach on grade separations. We've used this information to narrow down the number of alternatives and options at our 6 grade crossings. Today, we're here to focus on the transit center. That's Redwood City's bus depot and train station, with the goal of developing a conceptual design with ground floor activation, open space for gathering, and landscaping, which is consistent with the feedback that we've heard today. Next slide, please. But first, I'd like to highlight some important dates for the transit district. The city is finalizing the transit district amendments, and after 2 years of review and input, the most recent being the Planning Commission study session last week, we will be finalizing our recommendations and taking it forward for final action. So early in October, we hope to release the final subsequent EIR, and then to take the package, both the EIR and the transit district amendments, to the Planning Commission, targeting October the 18th, and then ultimately to the City Council in November. So separately from the transit district, the city and its partner agencies will continue its work on outreach on the grade separation and station design. And this work will really continue beyond 2023, with many more opportunities to shape the transit center over the next coming years. Next slide, please. So before we start, I'd like to do a little bit of an overview of the transit district and how the transit center is really a key element which informs these efforts. Next slide. So what is the transit district? Hopefully many of you are aware of what the transit district is. The city is creating a new transit district in the heart of the downtown that focuses on transit-oriented development, given its proximity to both the existing and the proposed transit district. So you can see the district above here in pink, and it includes the Sequoia Station Shopping Center, the Caltrain-owned transit center, and the Perry parcel totaling 16.6 acres. The anticipated needs of Caltrain require changes to the station location to accommodate a 4-track station. Grade separations of the railroad and surface streets are needed to increase safety, preserve traffic flow, and accommodate a new hub station. And what you can see in here in this element is where the old platform would be located and where that would shift to the north. Based on the proposed new station location, the city is evaluating how to best support transit through circulation improvements, parking adjustments, transit supportive land uses and densities through the transit district amendments. And the transit district is really the key to opening up this envisioned transit center. Next slide, please. So this slide compares the transit center on the left with the proposed transit center on the right. As a 4-track station with longer platforms, the transit center would need to shift to the north. This shift in location is reflected in pink for the platforms and blue for the bus depot. And as shown on the right, the proposed location for the transit center could potentially better integrate the bus and train operations with the bus depot along the perimeter of the elevated station platform. Next slide, please. So to date, we've done a lot of outreach, and we're really excited to share that with you and share how we've been listening. We've held a combination of physical and virtual strategies to engage both a broad cross-section of our community. And this includes online and mailed surveys, informational boards, which we've mounted in vacant storefront windows in the downtown and at City Hall, through newsletters sent on social media and mailings to over 6,000 addresses, and through food distribution programs. We've held pop-up booths at events. Hopefully you've seen us there and in fun gear. We've done canvassing door to door in some neighborhoods, and we presented to a number of local groups and organizations. And we've also created a virtual open house room, which allows you to browse through videos, maps, surveys, in a really new and interactive way. So if you've not had a chance to visit that room, it's a really fun way that you can spend a long time just getting to know what the district is, what the transit center is, and really a lot of information. Next slide, please. So we've collected a lot of data and we think that we've heard from you. This feedback has been really important to shaping these studies. And tonight we're going to talk a little bit about how that's informed the transit center. So specific to the transit center, we've asked questions about how to activate the new center, what streets to prioritize to get there, and opportunities for placemaking within the transit district. We've received over 600 responses to a recent survey, of which 91% of the responses were Redwood City residents, similar to the responses this evening. And the results show that while density was supported in the transit district, open space, landscaping, and natural elements were also really highly desired. Broadway, El Camino Real, and James were identified as the highest priorities for pedestrian and bike routes. There's also support for design to be sustainable, but also to celebrate the historic nature of the downtown. Top amenities include restaurants, retail, markets, and open space to create a really active pedestrian experience. So at this point, I'm excited to turn it back over to Majority, who's going to walk you through some conceptual sketches, which is based on the feedback today.
Great, thanks so much, Lindy. So that was, now that we have a bit of context and a reminder about the project and all of your great feedback, I'm going to share some sketches. These are potential concepts. These are loose sketches that really show some of the concepts that we heard were important to you, most importantly. And so going to the first one, this is a concept grade separation sketch. And this is showing standing at Broadway on Arguello, looking southwest. And this is really showing the benefits of this grade separation and how it's doing a couple things right now, improving connection to downtown and reducing barriers to the community. You can see that walkability, that safe and enjoyable walkability underneath and on the sidewalks. And really enhancing public safety. You can see ample walking room, biking lanes, and also reducing noise and congestion. The next sketch we wanted to share was what we're calling a concept pedestrian crossing at Perry and Broadway. And this view is standing at Perry and Broadway looking east, showing how pedestrian focused transit district and transit center can really enhance safety and make a really enjoyable and safe and walkable experience for not only residents that live nearby, but also commuters, daily commuters. So as Lindy mentioned, a major goal that we heard was activating that ground floor, creating more public space, creating more activation and vibrancy, interesting things to do and see as you walk around, not only making it safer, but making it funner, more enjoyable, more green, more shaded, a place that anyone with, all abilities and ages feel comfortable and safe walking, and also very welcomed. And the next sketch I wanted to share, we're calling Concept Bus Depot at Perry Street. And this is a view standing at Perry Street looking north. And this sketch really shows a potential concept of how this new bus depot would be highly connected and integrated with the new station platform. Again, activating that ground floor, lots of, a wide sidewalk, great accessibility for all abilities, and a really activated ground floor with things to do and see, shops and safe crossings, and ample space to, wait for your bus, grab a coffee while you're waiting for your bus, do other things with your friends and neighbors. And finally, the last sketch, and this kind of more watercolored look we wanted to share was, at the heart of it is the transit center. And that's where all of these things really come together and weave together to create this new place, this great place, that the elevated platform, making room for all this ground floor activation. As you can see, and as what we heard from you was that greenery, plant life was so important. In addition to, a market and a place to get food and place to do your neighborhood errands for neighborhood amenities and retail, safe, accessible crosswalks. So all of those things, and we'll talk through more of these in detail throughout the rest of the presentation. But I just wanted to share some initial sketches first before we kind of get into the nitty gritty and share, what components really make up the transit center. which brings us to our next section and what we're calling kind of a planning framework. So these are some core things that we heard from you that were really important through the survey and this, past year and a half of outreach. So some kind of concepts and main themes rose to the top. We heard from you that pedestrian experience was really important, not only safety, but what does that experience feel like? Open space and landscaping, incorporating greenery, drought resistant and sustainable greenery throughout the streets and open spaces of your city and neighborhood. Neighborhood amenities, how does that ground floor feel active, fun, safe, well lit, a place for all ages to convene and enjoy. And finally, placemaking and public art. How do we celebrate? We heard from you that celebrating the identity of Redwood City is so important and really uplifting local arts and culture and practitioners. So just a little bit of what Lindy was talking about in the intro. Just, I think many of you might have seen this image before, but this shows the current site. And as you can see, the current transit center is located next to the bus plaza right here, and really surrounded by a couple large parcels, very large parcels, a majority of which are surface parking lots currently, right, for those larger retail destinations. But in this concept that we've co-envisioned with you all, that it's really a new and vibrant place in which those large parcels of surface parking are reimagined into smaller, more walkable, pedestrian friendly blocks. You can see here the place that used to be one large parking lot is actually now 6 smaller blocks, which makes it a lot easier, a lot more accessible and enjoyable to walk and bike as a pedestrian or bicyclist. And you see the excuse me, the bus plaza and new relocated transit center. So all of these ingredients, as we talk about open space tonight, circulation, placemaking and public art, neighborhood amenities like ground floor, shops, restaurants, markets, these are all the ingredients that kind of make up the special sauce of this concept. So we're going to walk through some of these 4 kind of ingredients of the framework right now. So I just wanted to show as a concept how all those things wove together at this transit center. So that first kind of pillar of the transit center is pedestrian experience, and it's kind of one of the most important things, right? If you can't get there safely and enjoyably, that's the first step into this place. So how are people getting there? And let's unpack that term a little bit. What does pedestrian experience even mean, right? As a pedestrian, which streetscape amenities would make this transit district a desirable place to walk, roll, stroll, bicycle? So some of those images you see on the screen right now: sidewalk dining, a walkable place for all ages, a bike access and bike friendly, safe crossings, maybe incorporating artwork, a streetscape that really lifts up all modes, not just the car, not the bus, but walking, biking, and pedestrian amenities, green space as well. And a lot of these projects are already being worked on in your own city, Redwood City, right now. So one example of using some of these tactics and strategies and urban design tools is the Middlefield Road example of street improvements. You can see, I'm sure you've driven this road, you can see the before and after, but just taking a little bit of a deeper dive here and looking at how those improvements really changed the safety and experience of this street and intersection. So some of the tools that we'll be hopefully utilizing at the transit center are additional crosswalks, high visibility bike lanes, curb extension to make that curb to curb crossing shorter for the pedestrian and safer and more enjoyable. So if you've seen this project in real life, you'll know that these things work and these things make it a lot more enjoyable for pedestrians. And those are some of the tactics that we're really excited about, and we're excited to hear that we're a priority for you. Another question that we asked in the survey, and we heard a great response from, was, what streets are priorities for you? So 73% of you said you really prioritize Broadway for pedestrian improvements over here on the right. 65% of you said, improvements for bicyclists along Broadway and El Camino Real was a high priority. 50% prioritized James for pedestrian improvements. So these are all things that we've heard from you and really tried to implement into this planning effort. And as you can see, this kind of confluence of arrows really means that there are a number of ways to walk in and around now. There's not these mega blocks anymore. It's broken up to the human scale, right? So you can easily access, you can access the area easily, connect to downtown easier, more enjoyable and safer routes for both bicyclists and pedestrians. So now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Priyanka to walk through the other elements.
Thank you so much, Majuri. The second pillar we wanted to walk you all through is addressing open space and landscaping. And on the next page, you'll see in the digital survey that we had sent out last year, we asked respondents to share, what sort of style and identity would you like to see at the new transit center? And a lot of the responses really highlighted the importance of green landscape and themes surrounding a more nature-focused design. So this is feedback that we really wanted to incorporate in the future vision for the transit center. Other pieces that make up the category for open space and landscape include the ways that open space can really be activated. And this includes family fun activities, which includes all ages, more opportunities for festivals and events that have music and fun and can really activate the downtown core for gatherings, holidays, and to give the historic downtown like a woven together identity for residents, visitors to all come and appreciate together. So on the next slide, please. Some ways that the city is already making improvements related to landscape and open space are right in the heart of downtown along Jefferson Ave at the Paseo, right by the post office. So on the before, you can see what was before, more of an average passageway around the building is now on the right. You can see a really vibrant meeting spot with beautifully designed landscape elements that give the space a new identity and a place in downtown for people to come and gather. And now if we take a look at our future potential vision for the transit center again, you'll see how we have started to incorporate these landscaping elements on the next page, please, through trees and planters and other elements that we've highlighted here to really define the gathering spaces for how pedestrians interact with the space, pedestrians including the residents, if you're a transit rider or even just a visitor to enjoy the space. The plaza space at the transit center is really envisioned to provide active open space with opportunities for gathering and meeting up with a friend and just making the experience as a passerby really pleasant and an opportunity for the transit center to be a desirable place. And we can really achieve this through landscaping and open space elements, because that was a major feedback that we saw in the survey was, 62% of respondents desired street trees and landscaping at the transit center. The third sort of pillar that we wanted to walk through is regarding neighborhood amenities. And in our digital survey that we sent, we saw a lot of the respondents wanted to share more about what sorts of things that they could see at the transit center as relating to neighborhood amenities. A lot of respondents selected a desire for more open space restaurant or open air restaurants and cafes with opportunities for outdoor dining and neighborhood retail, maybe some opportunities for entertainment and just general personal services that would improve the convenience and access when they're in downtown. So one thing that the city is already doing to implement this sort of desire for more neighborhood amenities is an example along the additions to Broadway. So this is obviously a major thoroughfare through the downtown where so many of you probably come and cross in your time there, where you can come to dine and work and enjoy the sort of new outdoor dining, which really brings an active lifestyle to the streets and gives an opportunity for enhancing not only the safety of Broadway, but the experience for residents and visitors and even for transit riders to come and experience the city, not just as a place for vehicles, but a place for pedestrians and bicyclists as well. And in our concept vision for the transit center as it pertains to neighborhood amenities, we really kept that feedback in mind and wanted to focus on how to bring those personal services such as retail and cafes to the vision. So in the plaza, there could be, space for an open air market, which would really help bring a lot of identity to downtown for residents to enjoy and participate in, even where you can meet with friends, before or after you have to catch the train, or right after work before you're catching a bus home. Here you can see some of the opportunities for personal services and dining at the transit center, as well as information services that make navigation easier. So there's fast and easy ways to provide that through digital information kiosks, where you can look up the bus or train schedule. You can see a map of the downtown. You can find nearby shops and restaurants to explore with friends and family, because another 62% of you had responded with the desire for amenities like these shown here. And the final pillar that we really wanted to go through was around placemaking and public art. And this really relates to what the identity of the Redwood City Transit District and Center can really look like. It's an opportunity to really capitalize on how to make the transit center a landmark for the city. And how can we make the transit center a place with character of the city and improve the experience for the residents of the city to really be proud of. So in our survey, we've received a lot of feedback around the question of identity and theme. And a lot of the responses really highlighted the desire for an emphasis on the local arts and culture, as well as ways to honor the city's historic legacy, being, in close proximity to downtown. There's just so much to really experience in that. So one example of that is this mural, the beautiful community-led mural that is right on the Perry building, just nearby the transit center. It's giving a lot of life and color to, what would have otherwise been just sort of a blank wall. And it was a great opportunity to sort of celebrate the downtown and come together in a really creative way. So in our potential vision for the transit center, we really envision, introducing sculptural art elements that follow, again, the theme of landscape and getting back in touch with nature. And maybe it's an opportunity for an educational component as well, where families and small children can come to learn more about the historic city that they live in, as well as more prospects to have a community mural maybe on this side of the transit center for all to come and see and really celebrate the identity of Redwood City. In all, what we really want to share with you is an overall look and feel that we have envisioned for the transit center on the next slide. In these images, you can see how the ground floor is really activated, as Lindy and Majuri mentioned, seeing sort of the conflicts of where pedestrians, bicyclists, transit riders, residents can all sort of come together and feel really connected. And these images show how other transit centers and stations really incorporate all of those elements together and are really connected with the surrounding area and the fabric of the city. And they really show that there was a prioritization for emphasizing the needs of the community and how the community can be involved with how the identity is written. And there's just such a strong identity to each of these stations seen here through the style in which the architecture is and how the landscaping is incorporated and what amenities there are offered and how accessible the station is for everybody to come together and use. So the overall goal of the transit center is to really give what is today maybe a place that's, leaving more to be desired, lacking a sense of arrival, but to really transform it into a place with a grand sense of place and establish it as a landmark for residents and people of the city to really be proud of. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Majuri and we can get some of your feedback on this.
Great. Thanks for walking through all that, Priyanka. So that was a lot of content. We just showed a lot of images and pulled out, a lot of the things that we'd been hearing from you from various surveys and community meetings. But now that you've seen all that and how it's starting to shape up conceptually, we wanted to get your feedback again. And I'm going to activate a poll right now for question 2. So you should see a pop-up come up. And the question here is, we refer to this image over and over again. It's a concept image, it's a sketch. Which parts that we just walked through were most exciting to you? So what resonated? Did pedestrian experience is that at the top of your list? Is placemaking and public art the most important to you? So let us know which one of these four kind of really rise to the top for you as key. And also think about which one of these is going to affect your day-to-day life the most and what you're most excited to see kind of materialize in your downtown. So I'll give it another 30 seconds. I know it's hard to choose one of these, but okay, it looks like the numbers have stopped jumping around. So I'm going to close the poll and reflect that back out. And really interesting what we're seeing here. So it looks like a resounding pedestrian experience is what improving the pedestrian experience, improving pedestrian safety. That was most important to 55% of you. So that's by far the winner here. And then kind of half of that amount said open space and landscaping was the most important key element here. And then a third place, placemaking and art. And then coming in fourth, neighborhood amenities. So those shops and restaurants on the ground floor. So really interesting to hear your feedback on that. And so that's telling me that, pedestrian experience is something that is really, really desired with this group. So I'm going to stop sharing and then I'm going to go to the next page, which is almost the same question, but the other side of the coin. So from the elements that Priyanka and I just shared, what do you think is in need of most improvement? Where did you see it lacking in what we presented? Where do you want to see more work done? So I'm going to launch this third question. So as we walked through those four elements, were you thinking, oh, I wish I saw something that they just didn't cover? Was there something that you voiced in the outreach that you're not seeing reflected in these images? If so, choose either pedestrian experience, open space, neighborhood amenities, or placemaking. Because this is all a work in progress. This is a concept and a potential vision. So we still really, really want to hear from you and your feedback on how things are shaping up and what you think about them. Great. Looks like a couple of you are still filling it out. So I'll give it another 10, 15 seconds. Okay, looks like folks have stopped. I'm going to end the poll and share the results. So you should be able to see that. So this one is a lot closer. Again, pedestrian experience. So that's telling us that this needs the most work. And coming in close second, open space and landscaping. Want to see more improvement there, and then want to see more improvement in neighborhood amenities, and then coming in fourth, placemaking and public art. So really interesting how this question and the last question were a little different, but still pedestrian experience rose to the top as key importance for all of you. So thank you so much for sharing your opinions on what we shared. And this concludes, oh, one more question I forgot about. So we're gonna, as you can see, you can type in the chat. We would love you. We're just gonna probably open it up for about a minute or so. So type in the chat what you think would make this transit district more successful to you and your priorities and your daily life. So enter a brief, sentence or so in the chat, or if it's a word, that's okay too. It can be short, it could be a longer sentence. We just kind of want to crowdsource some ideas here and hear from you directly in the chat. So I'm seeing a lot of great answers already. Would love to see more car-free streets and paths. visibility to the transit platform and a feeling of safety. More retail and amenities and things like dry cleaner, grocery store, a bank, postal center, those kind of daily places where you're running your errands, really making the day-to-day grind convenient. Ditto on car-free streets, amazing. A design that discourages loitering. The public safety is always top of mind. Easy to navigate transit centers, pleasant and safe. So I'm seeing a lot of similar themes, a lot of reoccurring themes in these comments, which is really interesting. More lush landscape, non-hardscape areas. Want to understand upkeep. That is so important. Maintenance and how these places are maintained and managed is really important. Also car-free streets, lots of car-free streets. A bowling alley, roller rink, easy parking, a lot of fun entertainment there. Great, I love to see these just coming in. So many ideas. Something fun for kids and dogs. So great ideas. A place that's more pleasant to be for everyone, especially by foot and bike. Great, high frequency of transit service. Native plants, sustainable upcycled materials. So speaking of that sustainability and resiliency, these are great. They just keep coming. Vine covered vertical elements. So we heard that a lot in our survey. It's so interesting that greenery, even if it's not a park, but if it's integrated into the built environment, is really important to Redwood City residents. More art. Great. Lighting. Nice lighting, not only making an experience, but really creating a sense of safety as well at night. A focus on sustainability. Great, so many good comments. Places where you can sit and use private seating, restaurant seating. True public spaces. Hearing that a lot. Solar and green roofs to take advantage of the space, absolutely. Farmers market, love these ideas. More places to go shopping with your friends. We heard that a lot in our outreach. Things to do and see, right? You don't want to just make safe streets that you can walk and bike. Where are you walking and biking to and from, right? You want to hang out with friends, family. Great, we got farmers markets popular here. Good wayfinding. Great, these are all such excellent ideas. I do want to leave some time for Q&A because I know some of you must have some great questions. So feel free to keep typing in the chat your ideas, but we do want to transition, water fountains, love that. We will transition to Q&A, but just before we go to Q&A and leave the last 15 minutes or so for Q&A, if anybody has to drop off, we wanted to remind you that we are going to be doing an in-person pop-up. So we'll be having a table, some materials, some outreach materials, and a lot of the folks on the call today will be out at the plaza at the transit center, and we'll be engaging with visual materials to really talk through, and we want to have those in-depth conversations, those one-on-one conversations with you to take this conversation further. So that'll be from 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. on October 6th, next week, Thursday. There's also information on the website about more details about that event. So now we really want to hear from you and leave the last 15 minutes or so for Q&A and discussion. So there's two ways to ask questions tonight. You can either put your question in the Q&A function, or you can raise your hand, and Jennifer with the city is going to either select you and you'll be notified that you'll be unmuted so you can ask your question verbally. Or if you prefer not to speak, you can always just put that question in the Q&A. Great.
I do have a few hands. So do you want to go to the live comments first? And I know Jessica and Lindy are helping answer the questions in the Q&A box. But first, let's start with Dylan.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Yes. Thanks for
Perfect.
joining.
Yeah, so I had asked this in the text questions before about car-free streets, and I know that you had said that you're exploring it as part of the transit district and as well as the city planning. But I was wondering if it's currently a part of the plan as it stands now, or if it's something that is like being explored and might be added later.
That's such a great question. I'm going to turn it over to one of our city staff members here. Maybe Jessica, do you want to take that one?
Sure, I'm happy to take that. So right now, as it's currently proposed in the transit district, none of the streets are completely bike and pedestrian only. We've heard a lot of interest in our recent community meetings about considering Franklin to be bike or pedestrian only. And so we're continuing to explore options for how that could work while still maintaining access for sort of the functional needs of the buildings to operate, to get deliveries, pick up garbage, people to get in and out of the parking garages that have access off of Franklin. So we're definitely spending a lot of time looking at it and seeing how, if a complete closure is feasible, and if it's not, what sort of design features do we need to include to make sure that it really is a comfortable and safe space for people that are walking and biking.
Jessica, can I add one piece to that as well? I think it's also exciting to note that the segment of Hamilton, it would be a new segment of Hamilton, but the downtown precise plan had originally envisioned that to be, a street, and the proposed transit district would close that to cars, and it would become a plaza. So, and a new segment between Franklin and where the new train tracks would be a plaza, which would be just open to bicycles and pedestrians. And would be a really exciting opportunity to continue the cross at the grade. So that will continue to allow people to get from the Sequoia Station area into the downtown.
Oh, that's so awesome to hear. Okay, yeah, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you guys are considering that.
Thanks for that question.
Thank you.
I'm seeing a couple questions in the chat about construction. And can somebody from the city speak a little bit about that? So anticipated, disruptions from the grade separation or construction strategy as a whole.
So I didn't see the specific comments, but so one thing to keep in mind with the grade separations is we're at the very beginning of the process for studying those and designing them. So, we don't expect that those will go to construction for, 8 to 10 years, because we have to go through all of the sort of the design steps to prepare for construction. So we have a lot of time to focus on what sort of construction strategies we want to implement to mitigate any disruptions to downtown. I think one of the key elements during construction would be to ensure that only one crossing of the railroad tracks is closed at any time. So that would definitely be a priority. But it's really too soon to say. There may be some situation where we just don't have an alternative and have to close multiple crossings at once. But when we get to the point of construction, we'll have a very detailed construction plan that talks about traffic control plans and how traffic can be routed in a way that's as safe as possible and minimizes impacts to people trying to get to and from downtown.
Great. Thanks, Jessica. There's another question I'm seeing in the Q&A function, and it says, in terms of bike infrastructure, what is the current plan envision? Are we talking fully separated bike lanes, protected bike lanes, or painted lanes? We're early in the process, but is there thinking behind that?
Yeah, we are early in the process, but we do envision a mix of bike facilities depending on what the street is and what function it performs. So, for example, James, we expect to continue to be a really important connection from neighborhoods and the high school from the west of El Camino into the downtown to the transit center. And so we're planning to have a separated bike facility on James. Our El Camino Rail Corridor plan also envisions having protected bike lanes on El Camino. So we're actively working on a variety of fronts to realize those improvements. Brewster is another facility where we're hoping to get protected bike facilities. And then, you know, other streets like Franklin, we expect that that would be a shared bike boulevard. And then, you know, we have a variety of other streets that have, you know, the range of different facilities. I mean, we've just recently installed the protected bike lanes on Arguello. Again, as we get into the detailed design with the new transit center, we'd hope to maintain that facility, but we're also going to have a lot of buses operating in there. So we don't have a specific design for that yet, but there's a lot to come, but we do envision enhancing most, if not all, of the existing bike facilities or the existing streets that serve the transit center.
Thanks, Jessica. I see a couple people have raised their hands. So I'm wondering, Jennifer, if you're seeing any folks with their hands raised that wanted to ask a question verbally.
I'm going to go to Adrian Brandt.
Thank you. The presentation looks wonderful. I really like the way this project is progressing. As you know, I've had a lot of input here and there over the intervening months. A couple of points. I think because we are looking at a 4-track wide elevation of the plane where the tracks are, it's going to be important that we make some adjustments for that and take that into account so that we don't avoid, or that we avoid having a large, dark, sort of foreboding area. Many of the world's similar projects are just for 2 tracks, but banning out to 4 means that I urge that we work carefully with the train people to ensure that there are essentially gaps or skylights between the tracks. They can literally be like open air, or I've seen places where glass brick is used. A lot of old neighborhoods in Redwood City use glass brick in the sidewalks to allow natural light to penetrate down into service basements and things like that directly in the sidewalk. I've seen similar things on transit platforms where it's not a load-bearing surface, but it's where people can walk and let light penetrate down. Also, good use of correctly, good color temperature, daylight temperature LEDs to simulate natural light or sunlight underneath, I think is going to be important. Again, just because of the width we're looking at. And I would, that's the first drawing that was popped up. There was a large mass. I don't know if it was for elevators or what, but I would discourage or encourage keeping things as open and airy as possible. Don't create any dead zones. Make it so that visually there aren't a lot of blocking areas and blank walls. So that's important. And then with regard to James, I think there's an opportunity. Staff spoke about keeping that or creating a high quality bike ped experience there. But there's an opportunity with raising the tracks where James really ought to connect through so that people don't have to go through Franklin and Hamilton into the new Sequoia Station redevelopment, but can connect through under the elevated tracks to, I guess it's Winslow, that curve. There should be some creativity applied there, because with the tracks elevated and activated space underneath, we have opportunities for all kinds of new bike ped connections or trails or connectivity underneath. So that's another point that I think really needs to be looked at. And then I did mention in the chat a lot of vertical, avoid a lot of vertical blank walls, and make sure that actually the tracks are high enough so that it doesn't feel claustrophobic or cramped. In San Carlos, the tracks are not high enough at the station, and it's a terrible psychological sort of pedestrian experience ducking under the tracks because they're not high enough. It feels unwelcoming and a place you just want to rush through. It's not nice. So those are some thoughts. There'll be plenty more in the future, but thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Adrian. Thanks for sharing those great ideas. Really appreciate it. I see a bunch more people have raised their hands to talk. So I don't know, Jennifer, should we take a few more. We have about 5 minutes left, so maybe we can get to a couple more.
Okay. Next, I have Jimmy Hedges. Welcome.
This is really a question to an earlier meeting, which was regarding underground parking and how you were going to get to the surface. And it sounded like they were talking about using escalators and not elevators. And for handicapped people, escalators are out of the question. And in fact, a lot of the stuff they're talking about on the streets is out of the question for handicap. So I was trying to figure out which are they going to do, or are they going to do both?
Great.
So I can take that one. So for the transit center itself, I mean, we've done very conceptual planning for the new station, but we don't have the specific details. As a general rule, Caltrain uses a combination of elevators and ramps and stairs to provide access to elevated platforms. We're continuing conversations with them about, opportunities to either replace some of the ramps with escalators or augment the ramps with escalators. They may not be a good solution for people with mobility limitations, but we do feel like the escalators are a much faster way for people to get up to the platform than the ramps that you see at like the new Hillsdale station in San Mateo. But for sure, there will be elevators.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Should we go to another one verbally, Jennifer?
Sure. Let's go to Judy Webster. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. Longtime resident of Redwood City, and I live out near Red Morton Park, but I do go downtown on occasion. And I don't ever bring my dog, but I see a lot of dogs walking downtown. And in these pedestrian areas that you're planning, is there a thought about having them pet friendly? As we know, pets need to relieve themselves, and we would need like pet need stations, I guess, or facilities there at the downtown for people to pick up after their pets. And yeah, I like what you're doing, and thank you for what you're presenting this evening.
Thanks so much, Judy. Maybe I'll turn that one over to Lindy to talk about some open space amenities.
Thank you, Judy. No, it's a great point. As we are increasing density and housing in and around the downtown and the area, we are thinking about ways that we can incorporate amenities that serve all form of mobility, including our pet friends. So I think it's a great point. I think it's still very early on in the process, but as we start to prioritize what some of those amenities will be, you will certainly put notes that having more options and access to needs for pets is something we can add.
Lindy, we're right about at time, but let's maybe if the panelists are okay with it, take a couple more questions.
We have one more hand. I'm going to turn it over to Jim. Welcome.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Jim.
Okay. I'm sorry, I got to the meeting late, but just a synopsis, the 1 minute synopsis of this project is elevated tracks from Whipple to Maine, or what is this? Just briefly give me the scope of the project.
Sure. We can also go to that slide again, Lindy, if you want to talk through kind of the context and the overall. Sorry, don't want to make anybody seasick here. Just kind of talking about the overall scope of the project.
Thank you. Yeah, the focus of tonight's meeting is really the transit center and the portion that falls within the transit district. So here you can see the portion of the elevated train tracks within the downtown. I'm talking about ways that those elevated train tracks could be activated and really supported with landscaping, public art, placemaking for a relocated transit center. But this is part of another effort, the grade separations, which there are 6 grade crossings within Redwood City, and that's something that we're also evaluating, in a parallel effort, not the focus of tonight's meeting. But there's certainly a lot of information on the grade separation study, the options that are being evaluated. And I think, Jessica, best place for that would be transit plan, redwoodcity.org/transit plan, or the virtual room. Is that the best place for that?
I'm sorry, what was that? Again, that address again, please. I'm sorry.
No worries. And I think Jessica might, oh, thank you. You can go to the end. www.redwoodcity.org/transit plan. And then thank you, Midori. The open house, the virtual open house is www.rwctransitplan.com. So 2 different places.
Whoa. Slow down just a little bit,
Okay.
please.
We got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. I'll go back to the slide at the end that has it up for the remainder of the Q&A.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for these questions and comments. These are great. Sorry to go so fast. I'm just trying to reach the end here. And this will all be posted on the website. So a recording of this meeting, you can go back and watch the parts that you might have missed at the beginning. So here are those websites if you want to write them down for more information. Any other raised hands that we have time to get to?
I don't see any other hands raised, so thank you for your participation on that side.
Great, thanks for those who spoke out and asked a question. And then Lindy or Jessica, are there any other, we have actually so many questions in the Q&A chat. So we will be looking through these, and these are recorded questions. So I don't know if there's any specific ones you wanted to answer verbally, or we can record all these questions written down and provide answers as well.
Hard to pick which ones to highlight at this point. We certainly did our best to answer, a handful of them during the presentation. So please look at that. And as Midori indicated, we'll also be listing the questions and answers on the website. Needless to say, on the design side, it's very, very early on in the design process. So I think there's a question about what the design might look like and if it could be more artful and playful. The short answer is this is the very beginning of these discussions. So hopefully we heard a lot of excitement tonight. We are excited as well. There will be many more opportunities to provide input. So this is really sort of the beginning stage of getting this concept ironed out, but we will take these comments, we'll continue to work on it, and there will be many more opportunities in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And another reminder that we will be out at the Transit Plaza next week. If you want to come have longer conversations with us, or you didn't get a question answered or wanted to kind of expand on any comments of the material you saw, we'll also have visual materials on boards on October 6th out on the Transit Plaza, so we can have conversations and you can give even more input. So we look forward to meeting you face to face there. Really, really wanted to thank you all for joining on an evening where I'm sure you have a lot to do. So appreciate you joining us for this hour. And with that, I'm just going to say thank you for the city and the team. Thanks so much and have a great evening, everyone. Bye.